Okay, so we talked briefly in lab about hay and silage preservation. I'm going to talk a little bit about more theory, making sure that you have this information, um, in addition to what we kind of talked about outside by the tables down by the digester. So we're going to start with a book called The Silage and Hay Preservation, NRAES number 5. So this is the um, I forget what the NR stands for, but American Ag Engineering Society, Natural Resources there. This book is a very good book. It's relatively cheap. It's got a few years on it, but the information is really good and it was really written in an accessible way. And we're going to be using some of those slides as we go forward. So I believe it's still available. If you look up hay and silage preservation NRAES 5, you should be able to find it. So here's one of the diagrams from that publication, and this talks about where we can um, store things in the long term based on moisture content. So what we either have to do is we need to dry things down very much so, or we have to, on the left side, create a range that where fermentation can occur. And we look at the relative losses associated with those two. The light gray is a storage loss. Darker gray is a harvest loss. So, and we'll look at the moistures across the bottom, the percent dry matter lost on either side. So if we look at our field cured hay over here on the right side, we want it between 10 and 20% moisture, 80 to 90% dry matter. We know that when we're doing hay, our biggest challenge is minimizing the harvest loss, and that's usually associated with losing the leaves out in the field. So we can lose, as things get very dry, up to 25% of our material will stay out on the ground. We're going to lose, once we get that hay inside, as it cures, we're going to lose another 10% there. If we step to the left, our preservative treated hay, as we get moistures from 20 to 30% or dry matters from 70 to 80%, we need to add some sort of preservative to stop molding. So preservative treated hay, you can put it up a little wetter, so you're going to have reduced harvest losses. You're going to have a slightly more storage losses as it cures there, but we need to do something. It's just a little too wet. We need to do something to stop the molding. So we have to add some acid or some other preservative that's going to help with this. We move over to wilted silage. We talked about silage being from 50 to 70% moisture or 30 to 50% dry matter. These are the optimum ranges. We want to go shift to the left if we're dealing with bunker silo. We want to move more toward the right of this range, closer to the 50 if we're dealing with an upright silo. So generally, because we don't have the leaf loss associated with silage, we are going to have lower harvest loss, but the fermentation process takes a bigger cut than curing of hay does. So you're looking at 10 to 15% of your storage losses, but we're going to have lower losses overall than we would with hay. We also can get stuff in before the rain in the Northeast here. It's hard to find 3 days of good drying exactly when you want to cut things. If we go greater than 70% moisture, we're going to create direct cut silage, and we generally have to create in some way, shape, or form direct acidification or add some other preservative to that feed, so we don't have it rotting, we don't have it molding, we don't have it messing up. Because it's so wet, you're going to have certain amount of leachate, liquids flowing out. That liquid will have dry matter, and that's going to show this increased dry matter loss associated with the very wet material over here at about 85%. We're thinking about losses out in the field. We have avoidable and unavoidable losses. So we have all the, say we cutting at a 4-inch cutting height, everything that we could potentially get out of the field, we're going to lose a certain amount of that. So here on the corner, we missed some of the material, didn't get cut. There are other places in the field where stuff didn't get picked up. Those are all harvest losses. We're not getting that material into our wagons, getting it into our silage. So you can't be perfect in this, but we have here some windrows that really didn't get picked up all that well, so we've got some higher harvest losses than we might otherwise. Here we have another close-up picture of some harvest losses. We're not getting the ends of the windrows, picking those up as we turn around. So when we think about losses, when we go from the field to the cow, we're going to have harvest losses, we're going to have storage losses, we're going to have feeding losses. So at each step of the way, things are avoidable and unavoidable. We can't pick up everything with our harvest losses, but there's a certain amount that gets blown out onto the field, stuff we don't pick up. Some of that is avoidable. Storage losses, if we do everything, put it under cover, do all the rules, fill fast, pack tight, cover quickly, we should minimize our storage losses. If we don't cover stuff, we don't pack it right, we might lose as much as 50% of the dry matter that we put up, and then you're doing all those acres just for fun, half of them. One of every two you're just throwing away. So we want to do the job right, make sure we have the time to do that, minimize our storage losses. You're going to have curing losses, you're going to have fermentation losses. Those are unavoidable. But if we don't cover, we don't keep the air out, you're going to have losses that are avoidable. Feeding losses, we're usually feeding for 2 to 3% way back to keep our animals full fed. So that 2 or 3% may end up as a loss when it comes to feeding our cows. So we have our microbes. We talked about if you want to stop microbes from destroying our feedstuffs, you need to get rid of one of the things that they need to get their damage done. Either you got to sterilize the material, which is not likely to happen when it comes to preserving feed. You need to remove the food, which we can't. Water when we're making hay. It's air when we're making silage. There are some places that have tried removing the warmth, refrigerating things. That doesn't usually work. Or we add acids. We add inoculants that are going to increase the inhibitors, increase the irritants to keep the bad microbes from growing. So drying, it's all about making hay. We went over this in lab, but we have to cut it down. We may or may not condition it to speed up the drying, at least we hope. We need to get that hay, when we make it, down to 10 to 20% moisture, 80 to 90% dry matter. There's a number of things we do. We want to try to kill the plant as quickly as possible, so usually we cut in the morning. We dry things down during the day with the sunlights on it. That's going to shut that carbon cycle down, and it's going to prevent the plant from consuming all of the nutrients as it dies slowly. We want to save those nutrients for the cow. So in the Northeast, water comes and goes with the dew. We need to plan our activities to make sure that we um, dry down as quickly as we can, but at the same time do not destroy the leaves, lose the leaves through shatter. So we don't want to carpet the ground with all those leaves. We collect it together, we bale it, we round bale it, we square bale it, we do something through that. And then we talked about the vitamin content. Vitamin A goes down, vitamin E goes up, vitamin D goes up, but we don't generally manage our haze for the content of our vitamins. We can supplement those easy enough. So this is from the Silage and Hay Preservation book. Here's what we do, the practices that are best for making hay, the reasons why we do those things, and then if we do those things, what's likely to happen. So we mow early in the day, you get a full day's drying out in the sun. We're going to drop the moisture fast. We're going to cut the respiration loss. We're going to kill the plant, shut down the photosynthesis, shut down the respiration. We're going to hopefully not leave it out. It'll dry faster. We'll get it picked up faster. We should get higher quality and quantity if we follow that practice. And you see several benefits, and it's all about hopefully drying things down as best we can, collecting it at the optimum moisture, and then making sure we protect it from getting water on it again so it doesn't get back into that mold range, that middle area, which I didn't talk about. But you can go back and look at that graph. That middle area is no man's land. Either we have to have it wet enough for silage or dry enough for hay. We can't go in the middle. So forage quality, we went through in class. These how to judge hay. You should be familiar with this. We're going to ask you to do this on the lab practical. So make sure you know how to do that moving forward. So good hay, what the characteristics are for that. So we talked about green, softer, less brittle, more immature, no foreign material, pleasant smell, no weeds, palatable, liked by the animals. So judging the feed, judging your sample, here's a pattern or system we might go through judging our hay. So we're looking for the fine stems and plenty of leaves. Those are indicators of higher quality. We're making sure we don't have any weeds. We're looking for bright color. If hay is bleached, it's probably going to be low in vitamin A, but a lot of the other nutrients will stay. It usually indicates exposure to the elements, which may or may not lead to a reduction in nutrients. We want to smell, see if there's mold or dust. We want to check the texture. More immature plant is soft and spongy. You're looking for things that might indicate problems like mold, or it's been sitting around too long, or it doesn't come apart real well. Here's a score sheet for measuring there. We're looking for ones as our highest quality. So we don't want to see a lot of seed heads, so early, less mature. We want it very leafy. We want small diameter stems indicating it wasn't very mature. We want that natural green color. We want that clean smell. We want it soft and pliable. So you've got a number of these things that have been repeated over and over. You should be familiar with them and in some way, shape, or form have a list that you're ready to use come the lab practical. So this is kind of what you got to go through and what you got to go. So we gave all this stuff to you in hard copy. You should be familiar with it, understand it. If there's any questions, please ask.